This is Action News at 5.
With the conditions inside the building, we can't get in there. You can't move inside the building.
We have exclusive video from inside the home of a hoarder. The house destroyed in a morning fire. And starting today, Binghamton police are packing more than just weapons on the beat to tackle one of the city's biggest drug problems. Plus, we have an update on a fatal helicopter crash in the busiest section of Seattle. But first, a much warmer feel to the day today.
Gorgeous sunshine for the day today. It was a great Tuesday. We had temperatures into the upper 30s to near 40. Some of the warmest places across Chemung, Tioga, and Bradford counties, even into the upper 40s there. For the rest of the evening, we're losing some of that heat. Here's a look at your next several hours. Down to 39 in just the next 2 hours here, to 30 by 11, but we're looking dry. Much more in your forecast coming up.
Good evening, I'm Dave Graber. Two people in Endicott are homeless after a fire rips through their home on Roosevelt Street. Our Matt Porter has been covering the fire all day and is at the scene in Endicott, where he has more on why this fire was so difficult to fight. So Matt, exactly what was the situation like there today?
Dave, the fire that began in the basement here at the home behind me at 113 Roosevelt Avenue started at about 20 minutes to 9 this morning. Now, the couple who lived here, a middle-aged couple, they made it out before crews arrived. But when crews did arrive, they found a fire that was already out of control. Now, they were able to go into the basement and stop the fire at its source, but the fire by then had already spread up through the house all the way to the attic. Now, firefighters had to abandon fighting the fire from the inside because of what the fire chief called severe hoarding.
With the conditions inside the building, we can't get in there. You can't move inside the building.
I was shocked, came out to see it, and the flames are shooting out the window and up the roof.
Now, what you are seeing is exclusive video inside of the house after the fire. Now, fire crews said debris was up to the ceiling, or at least waist high, in most of the home. The fire chief called this classic hoarding behavior. Now, it took the firefighters about 3 hours or more to really put the fire out. You can see right here is the example of what was going wrong. All this pile of stuff just falling out of the home. That was what was stacked piles high that you just saw earlier. Now, the fire chief says they encounter hoarding not frequently, but when they do, it makes fighting that fire and putting it out quickly almost impossible. Live here in Endicott, I'm Matt Porter, WBNG TV, Action News.
Yeah, that's a good point, Matt. Thanks very much. Meanwhile, the investigation is underway into what caused a fire to business in Johnson City. It happened just after 5 this morning at Hank's Warehouse at 101 Lester Avenue. The Johnson City Fire Department says there was smoke coming out of the heater vents when they arrived. Firefighters forced their way in through the first floor door. The fire department says the fire started in a utility room where the flames were contained, but there is some smoke damage that is now located all throughout the building. It took crews about 25 minutes to put out that fire. New York State Police arrested a Groton man after they said he was making methamphetamine in a home. Troopers said today they arrested 27-year-old Jason Harvey after executing a search warrant at the home in Groton. He was charged with 1 count of criminal possession of a controlled substance and 1 count of manufacturing methamphetamine, both felonies. Harvey was arraigned in Groton Town Court and taken to the Tompkins County Jail on $15,000 bail or $30,000 bond. Harvey is scheduled to be back in Groton Town Court on March 21st. What's commonly referred to as the miracle drug, a medication that reverses the effects of heroin overdoses, is now in the hands of officers on the front line. And as our Brandy Bailey tells us, it'll be used now on the street. Brandy.
Dave, it's called Narcan, and it's a Narcan spray that the Binghamton police officers will now carry with them on the streets. The Binghamton Police Department has purchased 25 Narcan kits for the officers to carry. However, first there will be several weeks of training involved. The Narcan spray helps to recover an overdose patient to normal breathing. It also reverses the symptoms of a heroin overdose, providing short-term relief while a person is sent to the emergency room. The department will be spending $1,500 on the kits.
The police officers are the first responders, and when seconds count, it's just one more tool they have to possibly save someone's life.
A growing epidemic in the community. Heroin is a leading drug on the streets and one that's caused several deaths already just this year. While the police department is trying to keep drugs off the streets, they say it's also their responsibility to save lives and help people recover from drug addictions.
Yeah, it's good to have another tool in that fight. Thanks, Brandy. At least 2 people are dead and 1 critically injured after a Seattle News helicopter crashed outside KOMO TV stations near the Seattle Space Needle earlier today. Flames and smoke filled a Seattle intersection after a local news helicopter crash, killing both people on board. ABC affiliate KOMO identified the victims now as Gary Fitzner and former KOMO award-winning photographer Bill Strothman. KOMO says Strothman's son currently works for the station as a photographer. Now, the copter burst into flames and collided with at least 3 cars. 1 driver suffered burns on up to 20% of his body. The chopper crashed near the city's famous Space Needle, which remains closed at this hour. Seattle station KOMO TV says its helicopter was lifting off from this rooftop that you're about to see in just a second. The National Transportation Safety Board and the FAA are still investigating the cause. And Seattle's mayor says the city plans to re-examine its policies of permitting helicopter pads on the tops of buildings. KOMO employees hugged each other near the crash scene. Officials say they are likely remain closed, that area, for at least the next several days. Meanwhile, the search continues for the missing Malaysian airliner. There's more evidence the pilot or co-pilot may have played a critical role in the plane's disappearance. U.S. officials say a computer system had been pre-programmed to turn the plane off course. In China, family members of passengers have demanded answers and said they're threatening a hunger strike if Malaysian authorities did not give them those answers soon. Meanwhile, China has said it will deploy 21 satellites to help with the search. Chinese officials say they've checked the backgrounds on all of its citizens on board and found no links to terrorism. In all, 26 countries are involved in this current search and ongoing for the plane. Well, we're still working on more stories for Action News still to come in this half hour. For many, things may be a little bit different around the office in the coming weeks. We'll bet you know why, probably, especially if you are basketball fans. This will come during the second half hour of Action News, while dozens of college basketball teams prepare to square off this week for the big tournament. 2 mayoral candidates face off in the village of Owego today. You'll hear from both candidates coming up on Action News at about 5:31. Plus,
here's a look at the almanac for today. That average temperature 42 degrees, much below that at that 31. The sunset right before 7:15. Much more on your forecast with the chance for some rain and snow after the break.